You're listening to The Blueprint, brought to you by Executive Platforms. In every episode, we will discuss the topics and trends, the issues and ideas, the challenges and opportunities facing senior business leaders today. This series is one more way we want to engage with our network of industry executives. Thanks for joining us. Hello again, everyone. You're listening to another episode of Executive Platforms Blueprint podcast series. My name is Geoff Micks. I'm Executive Platforms Head of Content and Research. My guest today is Craig Stokes of Carbonfuture. Craig has over 20 years of commercial experience in business development and product marketing. He's also an avid sailor and scuba diver. In 2021, he realized climate change meant his children might never get to enjoy the oceans as he has done, and he decided to offer his background, experience, and expertise to being part of the solution. Craig, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Geoff. It's great to be here.
Before we get too far into things, I wonder if we can give our audience a little context about Carbonfuture. What does your company do, and what attracted you to being part of this team?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, our focus at Carbonfuture is on durable carbon removal because, net zero, Geoff, is simply not possible without it. And we want to help scale the necessary technologies and the market. To enable that, we've developed what we call the trust infrastructure to make carbon removal both trustworthy and scalable. So today, that trust infrastructure consists of two products that seamlessly connect the entire carbon removal lifecycle. The first of those products is Carbonfuture MRV Plus. For your audience, if they're not familiar with sort of what MRV is, it's monitoring, reporting, and verification, essentially steps that ensure a project is impactful and does what it says it's going to do. And then the second of those products is Carbonfuture Marketplace, where we're connecting buyers with suppliers of carbon removal credits. So, in a nutshell, we give buyers access to portfolios of high quality carbon removal credits, delivering, real climate impact with confidence.
Tell us more about the carbon removal market. I feel like this is a space that is undergoing rapid change, and a lot of people may not realize how quickly it's maturing. Can we first talk about what exactly is carbon removal and why we need it?
Yeah, for sure, Geoff. Well, it certainly is an exciting time for carbon removal. Emissions reductions are important, but carbon removal is essential to having a planet we want to live on for future generations. The good news is reductions and removals can happen in parallel, and leading organizations are doing both at the same time. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change says to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial times, we need to be removing about 10 gigatons of CO2 annually by 2050. Now, 10 gigatons is 10 billion tons of CO2. Now, in 2023, durable removal purchases grew 7 times to 4.5 million tons. So, Geoff, we have a long way to go to get to sort of 10 gigatons. Essentially, 5,000x growth is needed. The good news is that there are many more buyers entering the market, and the different technologies that we're seeing for carbon removal are ramping up quickly. Technologies like biochar, enhanced rock weathering, bioenergy with carbon capture and storage, direct air capture, and a number of different oceanic solutions.
Could you give us a few examples of what carbon removal actually looks like in real terms, and how that positive impact is being documented and verified in a way that people can trust?
Yeah, let me give you some examples about biochar, since it represented 93% of the durable deliveries in 2023 and is the removal technology that is having an immediate impact today. It can all sound very abstract, climate change, carbon removal, that sort of thing. Yet last month, I visited a number of our project partners in Northern California, and really interesting to see just sort of how tangible it can really be. These project developers are taking agricultural and forestry residue. So the agricultural, it's sort of walnut shells and almond shells from farmers in Northern California, Central California. And on the forestry side, taking what is biomass or forestry waste that would otherwise cause enormous fire hazards for California and other states. That residue is then being pyrolyzed and turned into biochar, and we can talk a little bit about that. But from there it goes, that biochar then goes to farms where it's being applied to the soil. And biochar has been shown to increase water retention, increase nutrient retention, increase crop yields. So in addition to the carbon credit that's being generated, biochar has a number of significant, what we call co-benefits. And that impact is being documented through our digital tracking system, which incorporates, digital traceability, where we track the biochar from where it's produced all the way through to where it's used. Our customers can actually see in our platform, can actually see, the biochar, in Google Maps, they can see where the truck actually took that biochar, traveled along the roads, and where it's applied. So, this all provides, visibility, which is essential, which provides trust and confidence for the buyers and for our project developers.
I think that's a really clear example, and I hope you'll indulge me because I have a lot of these conversations with supply chain executives who are always talking about trying to remove waste from their systems, hit their Scope 3 emissions by actually collaborating with their suppliers and helping them do better. I think that's what we're talking about here. Could you expand upon that just a little bit? And while I appreciate a lot of people listening to this are, looking at the sustainability piece of it, keep in mind we've got supply chain executives, manufacturing executives, food executives. Like there's a lot of different senior leaders who listen to this who might really be interested in hearing more about what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely, Geoff. Well, let me expand a little bit. I maybe sort of explain what biochar is. So it's a coal-like substance that's made by burning biomass, which is sort of what I touched on earlier, residual wood or crop waste at very high temperatures. So 500 to 700 degrees Celsius. In an oxygen-limited environment through it's a process called pyrolysis, and that the carbon is then locked away for hundreds, and some would argue maybe even up to 1,000 years. So interestingly enough, in California, farmers are having to pay to have their farm waste, as I mentioned, things like almond shells and walnut shells, pay for that waste to be disposed of, and so in the biochar process, they're able to take that farm waste and turn it into biochar, which then is able to turn around and be applied to farms for a benefit to the farmers. It's making the soil better. You could argue it's adding to food security by increasing crop yields. Other applications of biochar is actually sort of going into cement. So there's companies that are exploring carbon neutral cement. There are other project developers that we work with where biochar is applied to asphalt as a binding agent, and that asphalt is said to be 3 to 5 times more durable than existing asphalt, and it then has the carbon negative properties because it's using biochar. So I think if you look at sort of the end-to-end equation, biochar as a technology within durable carbon removal is doing good on the front end by helping farmers and solve problems for the state of California on one end, and then on the back end it's also providing robust technologies that address food security, make existing technologies like asphalt more robust. So yeah, very, very interesting technology, and it's only one of the technologies involved in durable carbon removal, and certainly the other technologies all have very interesting components as well.
And I think that's a really important point to make. I mean, this one certainly caught my attention, but there are so many solutions in the space. All of them are worth talking about, rather than go through each by each because there's only so much time in any one podcast. I wonder if we can speak generally. What are some of the things senior executives should be keeping in mind when they're making decisions about carbon removal and how it should fit into their sustainability programs?
Yeah, absolutely, Geoff. Well, I think trust has been a big problem in the space so far. There are, a number of executives we talk to have been concerned about some of the greenwashing claims that have surfaced in the media. And so buyers are essentially, and really focused on quality, right? They need to, they want to make sure the projects that they're getting involved with are doing what they say they're going to do. They're not going to get the organization in trouble, something called reputational risk. So there's a real need to focus on quality. And certainly to do that, I think, my advice to those listening on the show today would be to make sure you find a partner you can trust that has the infrastructure to really be able to track the performance of the credit from production through to end use. Other things to think about is certainly understanding your budget. and design a portfolio that works for you and works for your business. Other things to consider would be sort of things like project location. We talk to companies based in North America. Location can be important. They may want something that has a positive social benefit for maybe their local state or their local community. Other co-benefits may be important to your organization. And then regarding carbon removals, it's not a matter of if, it's when. And so we're helping CSOs get started, gain experience, build knowledge, and lock in supply at known prices.
Could I jump in just for a second on that issue? Because I think that's one of the key points for me. Right now we are sort of at the start of this thing, and I think there are so many opportunities for easy wins, for low-hanging fruit, but it's only going to get harder as things move forward. Could you talk a little bit more about what you're saying in terms of locking in things at known prices? What should people be thinking about?
Sure, Geoff. Yeah, I think, some organizations run the risk of missing out on supply, and certainly getting that supply at known prices. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. If an organization has a net zero goal of, let's say, 2040 or 2050, they may be thinking, hey, look, I can wait a few years before I start thinking about durable carbon removal and purchasing credits. Yet, if they're not getting involved in the market today and working with a company like Carbonfuture and learning and gaining experience, there's a real potential that they may miss out on that necessary supply. Prices, there's certainly a risk that prices may go up. And so if they're not locking in that supply now, it may get much more expensive. They may face risks in terms of not being able to lock in that supply at all.
What makes Carbonfuture the partner of choice in this space?
Yeah, well, our roots, Geoff, are really working with the project developer, and that's how we got started here at Carbonfuture. Starting from the supply side, there are certainly other, very good companies out there that have marketplaces, but they may not have the same visibility into the projects that they may be selling. And as I mentioned, we got started on the supply side, where we really have worked with the project developer, hand-holding them through the process, helping them build their business, helping them, get the certification required. We have done our own due diligence before we even work with that project developer. So we have the confidence in that project and firsthand experience. And then we have our digital traceability, which is really what makes Carbonfuture MRV so great. Look, our MRV, we think our MRV is the best in the marketplace. And then we're also integrated closely with the third-party standards like CSI, Puro, and Vera. All of this being built up from the supply side, and the knowledge we have about each of these individual projects that we propose to our buyers gives our buyers enormous amount of confidence.
I appreciate everyone's situation is a little different, but what are some of the questions that buyers should have when they're first entering this space? What type of misconceptions do you see from those who may not really be familiar with carbon removal?
Yeah, I think that the buyer questions, Geoff, it can really depend on their experience. If the buyer has been buying, nature-based solutions, they may be concerned. Certainly, there's been some negative press about some of those solutions. So they may be a little hesitant because some of the impact in that area has been questionable. But certainly, how to get started, I would say working with a vendor, a partner like Carbonfuture, to educate. In my experience, and as you mentioned, I've sort of had over 20 years experience, commercial experience. I've never come across an industry where education is so important, and I think we spend a lot of our time with our buyers and our suppliers, making sure they're comfortable, making sure they have the knowledge to make a decision. And so find someone that you can work with that will take the time and give you the education that you need. Other considerations are certainly price, the different types of projects and where they might be, what aligns with your company vision, your company goals. Are co-benefits important to you? And then, the misconceptions, it's really interesting. I think probably the biggest, couple of big misconceptions. Firstly, that reductions and avoidance is going to be enough. And I touched on this earlier. There is no planet we want to live on with reductions and avoidance alone. We need to be doing, and everybody says it, all the trusted organizations say it, we will need removals to make this planet a place we want to be. And so they need to be doing, that at some point. Our advice and our encouragement is start building up that knowledge now. Don't wait. Build up that experience, build up that knowledge, and find a partner that can work with you and be there with you on that journey.
So, can we talk about the experience of working with Carbonfuture a little? How does that working relationship evolve over time?
Yeah, on the buyer side, our customers have told me they're working with us because we bring them, quality supply and unique projects. So there's certainly the trust in us and the trust in the developer. Buyers, when they are initially looking at durable carbon removal credits, they want to understand that the partner they're working with is trustworthy. They then want to evaluate the project developer, right? That the project developer is someone that's trustworthy in terms of commercially and also just, their facilities, they know what they're doing. And then there's also the individual project. And so there's a lot to consider when they're, when buyers are evaluating a project and carbon removal credits.
Maybe we could take a minute and talk about where we actually start in all of this process. What should buyers be doing at the beginning?
Absolutely. Well, I think the best place to start would be starting with a pilot, maybe a year-long agreement where where the organization gains that experience and knowledge and builds confidence, and then expand that to a multi-year agreement and potentially increase the scale from there.
So let me put myself in the place of a chief sustainability officer for a moment. I want to build carbon removal and a more active role in the carbon market into my sustainability program. I know monitoring, reporting, and verification are crucial to make that something people can trust. What is the best way to persuade some of the other C-suite executives in my organization that this is not just a good idea, but it's going to be great for the business overall?
Yeah, there are different motivations for getting started, and certainly many of the first buyers in the marketplace that are there today got involved to ignite and grow the market with capital infusion. Many reasons, there's certainly many reasons to be doing this for the planet and for future generations. But if we're looking purely at business outcomes, I would say for the chief sustainability officer, it's about, and we've touched on this already, sort of building the knowledge and experience now. Uh, for HR, there are certainly positive benefits companies have been seeing in terms of attracting and retaining talent, knowing that their employer is involved in climate change and taking positive actions and positive steps. For the chief marketing officer, there are certainly positive brand benefits. We've been seeing that for a while. For the chief financial officer, it's really about de-risking in the areas of supply and price, locking in that supply today at known prices today versus sort of waiting and seeing closer to my net zero goal. And then for the CEO, Geoff, it's really all of the above.
Craig, we've covered a lot in this conversation. If there were one or two key takeaways you want people to think about further, what would you want to highlight for them?
It's really that carbon reduction is important, but that if your organization has a net zero goal, you will need carbon removal. So don't wait and hope that others will build that market up for you. So those, sort of couple of points would be really, first one, explore including durable removals in your portfolios today. Start with a small component and build up over time. And secondly, find a partner that gives you confidence, right? One that you can trust and that aligns with your organizational goals.
For people who want to learn more and ask a few questions, what is the best way to get in touch?
Certainly. Yeah, folks can reach me by email. That is craig@carbonfuture.earth or LinkedIn, whichever works best for them.
Well, I always think it's so generous when people offer their personal contact information, especially on an issue like this, where I think having real conversations with a subject matter expert is going to make a world of difference. So if you've been enjoying my conversation with Craig and want to have your own, I really encourage you to reach out. I also want to say, for those of you who will be joining us at the North American Sustainability and Responsibility Summit in Denver, the Carbon Future team will be in our exhibition hall, and we'll be happy to talk face-to-face as well. Craig, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah, Geoff, thanks for having me, and also thanks to your audience.
You've been listening to another episode of Executive Platform's Blueprint podcast series. I've been Geoff Micks. Let's do it again soon.